What's up, guys? This is Jake Sevitz with the Depression Coalition. A lot of you that know me well know that over the past few years I've been pretty outspoken about my past and I guess current battles with depression and anxiety, and just I've kind of been pretty outspoken about what I deal with on a daily basis and how I deal with them. I used to carry that inside, and I didn't want people to know about it. I felt like it was a humongous weakness, and I didn't want anybody to know that I struggled with those things. So I really kept it in, and I believe it was a couple years ago I put out a video kind of laying it on the line, putting my heart on my sleeve a little bit, and kind of saying the things that I struggle with. And I had a pretty overwhelming response to that video. I had a lot of people reach out to me that were struggling themselves and said they could relate to a lot of things that I said. So basically I wanted to kind of start fresh a little bit, and basically I'm probably going to reiterate on a lot of things I said in that video, but I want to get some fresh content out to you guys, and I've learned a lot since I made that last video, and I want to start sharing these things with people, because I think they can help, and I hope, we get so caught up in today's day and age with social media of trying to appease the masses, so to speak. If you put a post or something and it gets only 1 or 2 likes, it's not successful, I guess, so to speak. But if this video that I make now and any future videos, if they help one person to cope or to keep digging or whatever, then it's worth it. And I need to tell myself that more often, and I need to keep myself grounded in that, because I know that I have things that I can share with people that can help. So if I just consistently put out stuff to people that they can use as tools, then I think that what I'm doing is beneficial. So anyway, let me just give you a short synopsis on my life and where I've come from and where I'm at now. So I grew up, I've told this to a lot of people, I had a great upbringing. Like my parents weren't divorced. I didn't have to want for anything. I mean, you look at my life and you would, from an outside looking in, you would say this kid has no reason to be depressed. He's got a loving family. He's healthy. Why would he have any reason to be depressed? But that didn't change the fact that there was something wrong with how I felt. And that was, at times, could be difficult for me, because I couldn't understand why I felt bad. I would look around, and when I really took inventory of the things in my life, I had no reason to be depressed. And but yet something wasn't right. So and I was in high school. I was very, very small. I was very short, and that played with my brain, probably in not positive ways. I don't want to say I got bullied. I mean, I got picked on a little bit and ribbed, but I wasn't ever just like beat up. I mean, it could have been, let me say this, it could have been a lot worse. But I think I definitely know that did not help my self-confidence at all. So for years I had no self-confidence. I mean, I'm not even talking like a morsel of it. I really struggled through high school. I was really trying to find something that I was good at, because I was constantly kind of seeking this approval from my peers, because I'd not had that approval for so long. So I tried a lot of sports. I was awful at all of them, but I felt like I tried a lot harder than a lot of people that had better physical vehicles than myself, but I just didn't see the results. So I was really frustrated, and I was really upset, and I just couldn't figure out why I had this feeling. And so when I say this feeling, I say like I didn't want to be on this planet anymore. And I've talked to a lot of people about depression since in these past few years, and everybody's different. I've talked to people that feel like they do have depression, that don't ever want to harm themselves. They don't want to. They still want to live on Earth. They still like living, but they feel depressed. And that was not the case for me. Like, I did not want to exist. Like, I never, I never thought I would actually go through with taking my own life, but it crossed my mind several times. I just did not want to be on Earth anymore. I wanted to be somewhere else, and that was something I struggled with, I think, all through college. Like, for me, high school was rough, and I just couldn't wait to get to college. It was going to be a clean slate for me. And I got to college, and some of the things tagged along with me, and there were still some issues in college. And I was like, well, I just got to get out of college. I just got to get out and get in the real world and get a job and start making some income and, get my life started. And lo and behold, once college came and went, and I had a job and got out in the real world, so to speak, it didn't get any better. So that was a kind of, once that happened, it was a rude awakening for me, because it was kind of strike three. I was like, I thought this was going to be the end game. And then I realized that if I just kept looking for that next thing all the time, that I was never going to be happy. And so to me at the time, it was like, okay, then I just don't want to be on this earth anymore at all. And so that was like maybe my next thing. I was like, okay, maybe I just need to get off this rock floating around the sun, and then things will all be better. Well, none of us can answer that question, So that was kind of a rude awakening for me, is like, I didn't know where I was going to go from there. So that was the feeling that I had, and I felt worthless. I had no confidence in myself. Any things that I look back now, and things that I was good at, I would do, and people would tell me, oh, you did a good job on this or whatever, and it was never good enough. Oh no, I could do better, or I screwed this up, and that's, I still have a little bit of that. I embody that a little bit, but to me now it's more constructive. Back then it was destructive. It would tear me down and ruin me. Now I use it as fuel to improve for the next time. So, and I'll get onto that in maybe in a little bit, but for me, zero confidence, self-worth non-existent, and like I said, just didn't want to. And here's another scary thing, guys. Your brain can be your absolute best tool, or your worst enemy. And it's so scary, the things that your brain can do to you to break you down. And it's also really empowering to know the things that your brain can get you through, and the things that human beings are capable of when they put their brains to them. So, and I'll touch on this a little bit later as well, but I got to a point where my brain convinced me that the world around me wasn't real, that I was living in some sort of a Truman Show, and there was some higher power or somebody out there that was trying to see how far they could shove me before I snapped. And so I got myself convinced that my family wasn't real, that the people in my life, my friends, anybody in my life, everybody, the people I met at the supermarket, I was convinced that it was all a show. It was all some sort of a game that I was living in. My brain was kind of convincing me, like, okay, maybe this has been enough. Maybe we can finally see where this goes from here. And so I bounced back and forth with that for a long time. So now, and people that are close to me know this. My turning point was in November of 2016. One of my best friends got killed overseas in the Army, and that was devastating, to say the least. And I won't go into all that, because people that know me know what it did to me. But at that point, my life up until that point with depression had been peaks and valleys. And I told somebody this once. I said, the depression wouldn't be so bad if I could just draw a straight line through those peaks and valleys. The peaks are great. Like, I mean, they're awesome. I feel really good. But they make the valleys that much harder. So when you crash and come off that peak, you have got a long way to fall. And it can really be devastating. And so I told somebody, I said, if I could just draw a straight line through that. Well, when Matt got killed, it was the deepest valley I'd been through yet. And the straight line that I could have drawn through that graph went down with it. I mean, like, my peaks weren't as high, my valleys were lower. I mean, I was really in a bad way. And I got in a really dark place, and like I said, that was my rock bottom. I got to a point where when the workday was over, all I wanted to do was drink, and I literally at times would crawl underneath my computer desk and curl up in a ball, and I didn't even want to get out. Like I wish I could have crawled deeper into a hole, but that's as far as I could get down underneath my computer desk. And I look back now, and that was almost 3 years ago, and it seems crazy to even speak about because I've come so far from there. But here's what I want to encourage people: just don't ever stop trying stuff, because the things that I'm doing now, if you told me 3-4 years ago that what I'm doing now, I would have laughed in your face, because the things that I really held true for, held close to my heart, and things that I invested a lot of my time and effort and money into, I've pretty much renounced now. I mean, it's not even a blip on my radar now. And the things that I do now, again, if I'd have told myself back then, I would have been mortified, or maybe not mortified, but I would have been really surprised if you could have shown me a crystal ball of where I would be today. But I'm proud of myself, which is, hearing those words come out of my mouth is always strange, because that's something that I've never felt before up until these recent years. I'm confident in myself. I know my shortcomings, and I know I'm not perfect, but that's now, again, like I said earlier, I use that as fuel now. I use that as fuel to keep going. To know, it's exciting to know that you have things that you can improve on whenever you know that you're willing to take those steps and willing to take action towards improving yourself. And here's the other thing. I've said this to somebody the other day, and I think this can be empowering to people. So the peaks and valleys never go away in your life. But what I can offer to you is that my life, before I found the tools that I use now to cope with depression, my life was, imagine peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. And if you drew a straight line, if anybody that's into numbers, or like a trend line, so basically the average line through those points, peaks and valleys, it would have been just a horizontal line. No, over time, all this time had elapsed, and you had all these peaks and all these valleys, but you were pretty much at let's say this is 3 years from now, from whatever, you hadn't really moved much up or down. Your average self was about the same. And now, the way I feel is, let's shift this graph a little bit. So my peaks and valleys still exist, but if you drew it's kind of like the stock market, I guess, would be a good analogy. If you drew an average trend line through that graph, look where I'm at now compared to where I was at today, or previously. I've improved, and you look back at where you were at, and you're like, oh yeah, I can actually measure and show things that I've done to improve myself, and goals that I've achieved, and things that I've attained, and milestones that I've, things that used to be weaknesses are now strengths to me, and so that can feel really good. Guys, again, I won't ever give you the impression that the peaks and valleys go away. The valleys will always be there. You will always have those downswings. But now it's exciting to know that your next peak is coming, and you're probably going to be higher than you were before. So imagine climbing a mountain that you have some peaks and valleys to go through, and you see that next summit, and you can scale that and look back down at the summit behind you and see where you were, as opposed to my prior status of standing on a peak, and you're at a different peak, but you're looking horizontally and you haven't gained any altitude, and that can be demoralizing. So anyway, guys, I'll wrap this up. I don't want these to get long and lengthy, because I can chat. What I do need to do, though, is take some notes about things that I say I'm going to talk about later. But in the future, what I will offer you is that I will give you some tools, things that I do to help cope, and I'll try to. I don't want to make them too specific. I want them to be applied to everybody. I will give you some insight, maybe some more insight into things in my life, how I used to handle them, how I handle them now. I will tell you bring you more into the window of what depression was like for me. I'll give you some things to look for to maybe to see if you think you are depressed, if you think someone else you may know is depressed. Because here's another thing I've learned, guys, is that there's if you really get kind of black or white about it, there's two groups of people. There's people that understand depression and people that don't. And the people that don't understand depression, I'm so happy for you. I wouldn't wish what the things that I feel and the things that I know other people feel on my worst enemy. So I'm so glad that you don't have to experience it and know what it's like. But I hope that for the sake of all those around you and the rest of society, that you can try to peer in a little bit and understand what other people are going through. And it will be tough if you don't know what it's like, because it can be hard to explain to people sometimes. People that have never felt like taking their own life I can understand how hard that would be to wrap your head around, because some people really enjoy life, and I do too now, but there was a time when I didn't, and I can see how people that have never felt that way can really struggle with that concept. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and if there's any questions you guys have that you want me to address in future videos, hit me up. I would love to hear from you. And again, if I can help one person, I am happy. So I would love to hear some feedback. And until next time, take care, guys. Thanks.